Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Excuse my voice again. How's everybody this morning? Let's see who we got so far. Good morning, Erica. Good morning, Prophetess. Yes, tag everybody. Get them on this beautiful morning. Good morning, D'Angela. Good morning, Chanel. Let's see who else we got. Good morning, Claudie. Good morning, Pastor Princess. Let's see who else. Good morning, Pastor Kabira. Oh, we got a packed house this morning. Good morning, Janine. It's day 79 of iBirth. I am a finisher. Can y'all tag day 79? We almost at the finish line. Almost there. Hashtag for me day 79 while we wait for more people to come in. Day 79, yes. 21 days left. Almost there. iBirth. It's the Monday. Anybody got the Monday blues? It's like you blink on Friday and it's Monday again. But it's okay. It's okay. We're going to make it through another week. iBirth. Make sure you tag, share in your messenger, on your page. Send it to some text, WhatsApp, everything. Just share. Get some more people on to be blessed this morning. Tag your followers, highlight, screenshot it, put it on Instagram, tag the Explore page. Thank you, Prophetess. Yes, thank you. And good morning, Brina. Yes, it was a long. Here we are back on Monday. Good morning, Candace. Good morning, KB. Yes, wish me a happy birthday. I like happy birthdays. We have a couple of Sagittarius in the ministry. It's Sag season. We're not going deep into astrology now, but we can have a little bit of fun. Sag season for the Sagittarius. Yes, iBirth. I am a finisher. Day 79. 21 days left. 21, if my math is correct. I'm a words girl, not a numbers girl, but 21 days left. How's everybody enjoying the pillar of government topic so far? Yes, 21 days left, prophetess. Yes, 21. Thank you all. Thank you, Candace. Thank you, Pastor Princess. Happy birthday to you too as well, Pastor Princess. Happy belated birthday. The Sag girls. Thank you, Chanel. Good morning, Craig. All right, I'll give it another minute or two before we get into it. Don't want to hold us up too much, but just wanted to wait for everybody to get up and shake the Monday blues off. Yes, you love it so far, right? And it's so different. Talking about government, arts and entertainment, business. This is very different. It's a very unique ministry. Yes, finishing out this year strong. It's not strong, but strong. Thank you all for the happy birthdays. I really appreciate it. So yes, make sure you're liking, tagging, sharing to your friends, your family, and your messenger on your page, Instagram, everywhere. YouTube. Welcome everybody from YouTube. Is it just YouTube and Facebook, correct? Or is it more social media sites that are able to? I like it. Good morning, Abby. I like it. I like it. Okay, so it's still my birthday. So I'm not one of those people that celebrate like all month. I know you got some people that'll celebrate their birthday for like a month. Me, just give me my birthday and that's it. Yes, I like it. Yes, thank you, D'Angela. But yeah, I'm one of those people, just give me my happy birthday, shoot me some text, give me a phone call, and that's it. And then just give me one night. I'm not like a crazy party animal. Give me one party, two a month, and I'm good. I don't need to be out every weekend. Yes, Pastor, I know you celebrate all month and an extra week, 5 weeks. Okay. Janine, I'm crying. Yeah, just give me my day. Might do two, depending on the day it falls on. I might do two. So this year it was a Saturday, so I had a good time. Thank you, KB. So today we'll be continuing with the pillar of government. Government can be a little controversial, based on how people view things, people's beliefs. So it's just always important to be open-minded. I'm a person that, we need some level of intelligence because respectfully, some people would just be like, what are you talking about? But it's one of those topics where, just like religion, people have different opinions, biases, and experiences that make them look at things a certain way. I know the last couple of years maybe could be just because it could have been this way, but since I was younger, I didn't pay much attention. As far as government, good morning, Wesley Payne. As far as government, not really paying too much attention. So it could have been controversial forever, but the last couple of years, I remember I was a freshman in college when Barack won the first time. I couldn't vote because I was only 17, but I remember it was like a big thing, and I went to school in Pennsylvania, so it was like the KKK came out after he won, and then I remember not really understanding, electoral college, and it was there from other people that had a little bit more knowledge of government. And as far as like the presidential election, they kind of schooled me and I got a better understanding because I never really, some of us, we don't really pay attention, especially like in, I'm not going to say just the Black community because it's a lot of different communities, but with minorities, we don't necessarily always pay attention. A lot of things, we have our own struggles and problems. So sometimes we don't really think outside the box, not necessarily on purpose. But I didn't really know that much as far as like the presidential election. But I learned from people while I was in college. And like I said, when Barack won, it was a news about him not being good or whatever. That's how it is with every president. But I do remember that it was a big excitement for us to come from such a racial background for a Black man to somebody Black, but a Black man to become the president of the United States. I do remember having some joy in that. So it was like a big deal for like the Black kids and the way we all just came together. And we had to literally like walk together from like dorm to dorm for like the first couple of weeks because there were a lot of threats of like racially based attacks. Nothing that I can remember really happened, but just to see how the to Penn State, and it's not like it's an HBCU, so it's a whole bunch of Black people. We had a nice amount, but we really had to come together to make sure we were all okay. So just a little recap as far as the government, the three branches. Can you guys tell me the three branches of government? It's already been said, but just a little recap to make sure we're all on the same page. Let me know. Text in the chat the three branches. I did learn in school. I did learn about the different branches of government. So I had an idea of this. But it's also interesting, when you learn things in school and then as you become an adult, you're able to apply them. Because in school, you're just getting the information, but then as you get older, you start to see, okay, the president goes here. The judge, they fit here. This is, the House of Representatives, all of that goes here. So if you really apply it and just retain the information and understand it, because sometimes we can memorize stuff, but if you really understand and see how it all plays. So yes, let's see a couple more people mention it before I put them out there. So no, Prophetess broke them down for sure. Was that new to anybody, or did everybody already know? Everybody remembered from middle school and high school? I'm like a nerd. I think, Erica, didn't you say something about you becoming a nerd when you were on? I'm like half nerd. I love history. I love like politics. I like to debate. So as long as you have an intelligent educational debate, I like to debate. So learning about history and government, politics, that was always interesting. Yes, Keisha says not new. You remember from school? Yep, they did teach us that. Was it history? It wasn't history. Or was it like, I think we had like governmental sciences class or something like that. But I think some history they teach you. So yes, we have the legislative. So legislative, that involves Congress, the Senate, the House of Representatives. It was history, okay. The executive branch, that's the president. You love math and science? Okay, you can keep math. But I am a science girl and an English literature girl. But no, not math. Not me at all. Me and numbers do not go well together, especially when you go past 20. You was never good with dates. What you mean by that, Dr. Ford? You was never good with dates. Oh, like in history, remembering the dates certain things happen. Okay, I got you. So like I said, the legislative, so that's the Congress, Senate, House of Reps. I'm not going to go too deep because Prophetess already gave it to us. The executive branch, that's the president. And judicial, that is the courts. I have background in law enforcement, so I am familiar with government. I have like an interesting view, so I'm not going to go too deep because I don't want to be too controversial on the pastor's platform. But government is important. The government literally makes laws, rules that we must abide by in certain areas if you want to be free. You want to be able to maintain a home life, work, regardless of how we feel about the government. There's certain things that we have to do. Let's say taxes. Not everybody wants to pay taxes. I know me personally, I want to keep my money. Paying taxes to my tithes is different, but then paying taxes. And what's interesting about taxes, you tax something. So I pay my taxes. You give me the money back just to take it again. But that's a whole other story. So we're not going to go there. But the government is important in knowing about it. So I think that's one thing that's interesting about this church is these are things that aren't necessarily taught. And I'll get a little bit further into it with what I'll be speaking about. But these are things that are very vital in everyday life. And I think if we had more knowledge and more interest in these areas, we, when I say we, of course, including myself, we could be more involved. Like even with the Good Morning Starnish, the local elections, those a lot of people don't necessarily believe, oh, my vote doesn't count. And I get it. I'm not here to say it does or it doesn't. I do know that I exercise my right to vote just based on the history of not being able to vote. That's honestly the reason why I participate. No other reason. Because I think that, the government is just far left at this point. But my scripture that I'll be talking about today is Romans chapter 13. I'm going to just stick with verse 1 and 2. This was also when I did my research, I realized that this is a controversial chapter as well. I'm not going to say misinterpretations, but from me doing my research, there were a lot of different interpretations. The Bible scholars, is that something that when y'all discuss it in school and stuff, that there were debates about it? Because when I looked online, it was like people interpreted it this way, people interpreted it that way. So I'm not going to go too deep into it, but it does say this is Romans chapter 13, verse 1 and 2. But like I said, in your spare time, read it all because it is very interesting and you'll be able to get your interpretation. The Bible is interesting. I feel like a lot of it is black and white, but some of it is gray. And when I say gray, I don't mean confusing, but it's just up for interpretation of how you see it, how you can apply it. So that's one thing I do love about the Bible. And I think sometimes people can take it literally, which it should be, but also I think it's like that other side where how you can take something that you read, a story in the Bible, a scripture, and you can apply it. I think I said it when I first spoke. On a resume, we have transferable skills, but I think with the Bible, it's like transferable scripture. So a scripture that can fit in another area when it seems it may fit in just one. But that's based on your own spiritual imagination. So that's my take on it. Yes, Romans 13, 1 and 2 says, let every soul be subject unto the higher powers, for there is no power but of God. The powers that be are ordained of God. Whosoever therefore resisteth the power, resisteth the ordinance of God, and they that resist shall receive to themselves damnation. So again, when I read that, it was like different interpretations. You had some people that were saying that God puts people in place. So if he puts these people in place, then, we should follow it. I did read also that some were saying that we should just follow God because God is the end all be all, which is true. So as far as this scripture, I'm still breaking it down. I definitely want to speak to those who are more well versed in the Bible to see where it can go. But I think this is one of those scriptures that's very interesting. What's interesting also about this scripture is if you go from that view of, God ordains people and puts people in place, of course, that's very true. But I think the issue arises just in general, free will. So even though free will is a positive, it can also be a negative because when you have free will, things can get turned upside down. Things can be misconstrued because, God has an agenda. And if he wants to move right now and make things the way he wants it to be, we know he could do that. But with the free will, sometimes he does give us time, space, patience. So with that, a lot of things can, go a little bit to the left. So that was the scripture that I wanted to share with you guys today. But for the sake of time, I'll get into what I'll be speaking about. Like I said, this is the pillar of government. And it's perfect timing since we just had the election, and then our new president will be coming into office in the next few weeks. So I thought about it, and if I were president, if I were elected president, what would I do? What type of president would I be? That's personally a job that I would not really want. I think it's an immense amount of pressure. I think being a president is kind of like being a parent sometimes. You like can't really win all the time because you have to make certain decisions that maybe benefit this sect but not this other side of the coin. You can't make everybody happy, right? And with our government, it's just so many different backgrounds, so many different parts that come into play. So I feel like being a president, that's like such a difficult job. And they always talk about they always like post a president like a before and after, how a president looks going into office, and then how they look coming out. Because it's only 4 years, unless you do a double term back to back, then it'll be 8. But 4 years is it could be considered a long time, but I think it's really short, really short. If you look at the grand scheme of a person's life, 4 years is not that long, right? That's 4 years of college, 4 years at a job. But being the president of the United States is a very, very taxing job, and it's not necessarily a job that I would want. But for my imagination's sake, if I was a president, I know that I would definitely surround myself with experts. I feel like it is important to be self-aware, to know yourself, know where you fall short. What are you good at? So as a president, of course, I would need to know the knowledge, a much deeper knowledge of the government. And I think that's also why it's interesting that now we're having presidents that don't necessarily come from a law-related background, or a governmental related background. Not to say that a person won't be good at their job just because they don't come from that background, but I do think it is important to know, how we do things as far as, dealing with other countries. It's just very important. It's a lot that goes into being a president. Like when you go to visit other countries, you may like one country, they may not shake hands, but in America, shaking hands is big. Other countries, you have to maintain eye contact. Some you don't. Some you're supposed to sit a certain way. Some you go to certain countries, they eat certain things. So it's just very interesting. Like I said, it's just a job I wouldn't necessarily want, but you do have to have knowledge, and they have advisors. So it's not like they're all just sitting there doing all of this research. They do have some people that, come with the specific information that make it more easy for them. But I know definitely if I was president, I would definitely have a spiritual advisor. I think advisors are great, period. Not only spiritual, I do think spiritual is one of the most important. Of course, we need to be connected to our spiritual side with God. But I would have a spiritual advisor for sure that will help to lead me and guide me in my decision making. When I need a reset, when I need some peace and calm, because I know I find peace and calm in my spiritual side, my spiritual life. So I definitely would have a spiritual advisor. I would definitely have a financial advisor. I feel like America, we're not in the best place financially. So we definitely need those experts. It's not like a one man, one woman show. We need people who are experts in these different areas to make sure that we're pushing this proper agenda. And, we're doing what's best for the whole of the community, the country. We are a democratic country, even though it doesn't necessarily seem like that. Even though we're democratic, I know at times it can seem like it's a focus more on a certain set of people. Money talks. So a lot of people who are in better positions, they kind of control a lot when it comes to government behind the scenes. But that's just how that happens everywhere. Money talks. Money makes the world go around, fortunately and unfortunately. But definitely also will have legal experts. Those are the first things that I would do. Get me a spiritual advisor, Also some health related experts. I feel like America has one of, and this, I don't want to make this a bash America session, but it is interesting that America at one time was considered like one. If you really look at like other countries, they are really steps ahead of us. Like transportation, if you look at like China and Japan, like their subway systems, the way they build like highways and bridges so quickly, or even if you look at how other countries, specifically in Asia, dealt with like the COVID crisis, like a lot of them are very advanced. So like I said, I don't want to sound like it's um, bash America session, but the reality is, if I was president, these are some of the things that I would want to make better. So, a spiritual advisor, some experts that are experts on health related topics, a financial advisor, and some legal experts to just see how we can all come together, sit at a table, and really put America in a spiritual advisor. The spiritual team will also have to, we all have to work together, but I would definitely want to have a spiritual foundation, because that's what I believe in. You know, I believe in God. I believe Jesus is my Lord and Savior. So I definitely, with understanding that everybody doesn't necessarily believe that, but that would be my agenda. So finding a perfect balance of pushing that agenda, fairness. Um, So I recently realized when it comes to work, I enjoy cleaning things up. A lot of people like to start things from the bottom. I'm not too crazy about that. I like to go in and see what things can be fixed, what things can be changed. So that's why me coming in as the president, it definitely would fit. So I would implement different laws, of course, because I would want to make change. It's easy to say now, we're looking at the country now, the things that are going wrong, right? So it's easy for me to come in now and say, okay, this is what's not working. Let's try these things, right? So first, definitely education would be free. I feel like more people would take their education serious, go to school, and it should be free. It doesn't have to necessarily be college. It could be trades, or whatever a person has an interest in, they should go try it out and it should be free. I always said that me going to college at 17 and have to figure out what I wanted to be in life, I felt like it was premature. I feel like it's too soon to figure out between 17 and 21 what you want to be. And even sometimes things change. Like I know my previous interest in law enforcement, I don't really have that anymore. So at 17 to 21, 17 to whatever age I was when I stopped being interested, I was really interested in that at the time. But as I evolved, as I grew, I realized it wasn't really for me. So that's a part of growing. So I think education should definitely be free. Yes, that was going to be my second point, Erica. In addition to being free, not just to start, but you have people that go to school and then these loans, it's like never ending. Anybody else still paying back student loans? I know I'm still paying back mine. It's like never ending. And it feels like a big weight that are on a lot of students. And it's so interesting that the presidents always promise that they're going to get rid of them, but it doesn't really happen. I know Biden did a little bit here and there, but they always promise us that, especially with the millennials, Erica, that's what they go at with us. Yeah, we're gonna get rid of those student loans. I don't think it's gonna happen. But yes, it's never, Keisha, you're right. It's never ending. And then they get us with the interest rate because you're paying it off, but the interest rate is like a whole nother bill on top of it. It's like it's just never ending. But I think it's designed that way. So education would definitely be free. But in addition to education being free, I would look into revamping the whole educational system. When we were younger, we didn't really have a lot of information on like autism, learning disabilities, intellectual disabilities. So I think now that we see that those exist, and even if it's not necessarily disabilities, people have different interests. People are interested in different things. I know, like for example, my little brother, he didn't like sitting in a classroom, but he went and took his GED test and he passed it with flying colors. You have other people who do like sitting in the classroom. They enjoy learning. They enjoy learning about history. What about the person that doesn't want to learn about history? What about the person that wants to learn about something mechanically related? What about somebody who's interested in sports? I think the school system should have much more options, and based on the interests of the students, that should be more of a focus. Not just, it's like certain things, let's say like the Pythagorean theorem. Erica, you might still use it because you're still in math, but I haven't used that since what, 10th, 11th grade? Why do I need to know what a squared plus b squared equals c squared? I get the discipline, I get getting my brain to work, but I feel like, me personally, a lot of things that I learned in school are like useless now. It's like, why did I need to know that? And then there are so many other things that are missed, like economics, financial literacy. Like, and I also think it's designed that way as well, to not have us have the knowledge. But just imagine if we learn financial literacy, like seriously, in college, how to have a bank account, how to really, go forward financially in life. You don't really, we don't really know. So I don't think we're prepared for life. And if you look at, do research at regarding other countries, they do this. So this is possible. They're much more advanced. They're much more prepared to be prepared for life. So I definitely think the school system should completely be revamped and more up to date as far as interests and how it relates to us living as adults. Because a lot of that stuff that we learn, even physics, like why do I need to know that, the velocity? And me personally, physics was not my thing. Physics is considered a science. I think it should be math, but that's a whole nother topic. Or is it a math and should be? Yeah, I think they consider physics like it goes with science classes, but it's too many numbers for me. Statistics too. It's like, why do I need to know all of this? A lot of things were just useless. So I think I would revamp that. Also, healthcare. Healthcare should be free. That would be one of the laws I implement. Healthcare needs to be free. A lot of people are struggling. I just was talking to one of the my sisters under the ministry the other day. We were talking about dental. Dental care is just so expensive, and a lot of people do not go take care of their health. Some people do it is due to lack of knowledge, but a lot of people, it's just not affordable. The insurance is just, it's like, does anybody have good insurance? I know me, I wish I did a lot of things while I was under my parents' insurance, because I know I got the boot at 26 because I went to school. I think now it doesn't matter if you're in school or not, but I know when I was, you had to like be still in school. But healthcare should be free. I would definitely put also stricter laws on when it comes to media. Just more censorship on what people see, especially kids. I do feel like it's all grouped together. I feel like it should be more so what you specifically go to. Like, I know sometimes I see my nieces and nephews, they're on TikTok, and they may start out really with something innocent, but the more they scroll, it gets a little to the left. It's like, okay, what's going on here? Is this for kids? And I believe it's either China or Japan. I think it's China. They have a cap on how much their kids can use TikTok. And not, in addition to the cap on how much they can use it, what they're able to see. So their TikTok is completely different from America's TikTok. And I'm right in the middle as a millennial of the generation of going outside, really being outside and having fun. When I say outside, not growing outside like partying, but I'm talking about like being a kid in the park, hide and seek, things like that. So I remember seeing the internet really take off, like with MySpace. That's when I was in high school, middle school and high school. So it was interesting that I actually see both sides. Like now, I think kids born after like 1995, they strictly TV, computers. They're not, as a whole, not really big on outside. Like social media is their whole life. So I definitely would want to censor that. I definitely would want some stricter laws regarding food. I feel like America can get a little bit more healthier. And I don't want to, I like free will too. So it's not, let's just be boring and only eat salads forever. But I think we need stricter laws on food, and not just what we eat, how the food is preserved, how is it made. A lot of things now are genetically modified, and I do think it's messing us up. I think it's messing us up health-wise. I think mentally, personally, I think a lot of the way the food is created, the environment, pollution. I think that's adding to a lot of the mental health concerns and crisis that our country is in. I think that is a very big deal. So definitely stricter laws regarding what is consumed, what we consume, but also how it's made, where is it coming from, how do we preserve it. Um, I definitely think mental health related treatment would be not only free, but I might blow your mind with this one a little bit. I want it to be mandatory. I think mental health related treatment, and that could be something as counseling service, doesn't necessarily mean there's a diagnosis, but just somebody who's stressed. Like, life is life for all of us, especially minorities, the Black community. I think mental health it should be mandatory. And it doesn't necessarily have to look at, it's important to be creative. It doesn't necessarily have to be, you have to go to therapy. But let's say in high school, middle school, there's a therapy session, something like that. How do we teach self-care? How can a child have self-care? People don't really give kids enough credit. Kids are going through a lot. As you get older, your a lot changes, what your a lot looks like. But there stresses, especially these days with the pressures of social media, beauty requirements. It's a lot of pressures, and I think these are some things that should be taught when we're young. How to express. Like, you have some kids that maybe act out aggressively or violently, and it's not because they want to. It's just they don't know how to express whatever they have going on inside. We talked about in the beginning, family. A lot of people expressed, their being molested, certain physical abuse, mental abuse, emotional abuse. I think it's important to give children the knowledge so they can identify what is happening, what's going on. And if it does unfortunately happen to them, where is their outlet? If you look at somebody like R. Kelly, like, I'm not a big fan of R. Kelly based on, what he's done. But if you imagine if somebody would have helped him when he was 14 or whatever, dealing with his sexual abuse that he went through. Just imagine if somebody helped him. He got some help, then there will be much less victims down the line, because what hurt people. So, like I said, I'm not the biggest fan of him, but he does have a past. He does have something that made him act the way he acted. So I know that would be mandatory across the board, and just starting young. I would definitely start young with that. I would definitely have stricter laws regarding police brutality. I think police brutality, and not just, we see them online, George Floyd, Trayvon Martin, even though Trayvon wasn't necessarily police. I think it was Mike Brown. I think they take it too far. And that's just people of authority, period. I know with me in law enforcement, I lost my lack of interest because I didn't really need a badge to make me feel better about myself. So I didn't necessarily fit in law enforcement. And not to say that everybody's like that, but we do know law enforcement and people in general, when they have authority, they can tend to abuse it. So definitely I would want to revamp the whole law enforcement system. That's laws. They got mandatory minimums and all of those type of things that kind of focus more so on a certain set of people, and focus more so on how we can make it where people don't feel like they need to turn to crime. That's something I don't think we focus on enough. So those are some of the things that some of the laws that I would implement. My leadership style, I think I have a few. I definitely think I would be interested in with leadership styles. If you guys, I'm going to say the definitions, or not the definition, the description, because depending on where you look, they do have different names for the leadership styles, but the descriptions kind of are not kind of, they're basically consistent. It's just the way maybe this research team titled it, or over time they do change the names of certain things. But I definitely would have a democratic style. I would be a leader where I empower the team, and I want people to have a voice in decision making. Once again, I think that helps with self-awareness. Like, you may have somebody who is better at certain things than I would be. So I would want to hear their voice. What would they feel like we should implement? Or I may have a tunnel vision view, and they may say, hey, President, President Clark. That's not going to work, because if you do that, this is going to come. And I think that's important to have those type of advisory teams, or just leaders under you or alongside you that can really tell you the truth, give you a different point of view, because sometimes we can be, biased and have tunnel vision. So they also did have a coaching style. So that description is a style where the leader clarifies goals and expectations and establishes rewards for meeting them. I definitely think, people, we should definitely speak about the goals. What are the goals that I have for the country? How can we obtain these goals? And then, when we obtain these goals, what is the reward? Not just for us, but for the community, the government as a whole. If we do this, how does this now look for us? A lot of times leaders, or specifically we're talking about the government, it's just, like I said, focuses on the betterment of a certain set of people, specifically those who have a lot of money. And then it's like, I feel like everybody else is kind of like falling to the wayside. But it's like, it's like 2% is like has all the wealth, and then the rest of us, I don't know what we doing. But I definitely think we need to realize these are the expectations and the goals, and these are the rewards if we obtain them collectively. Not just, we can have rewards individually too, but also collectively. America and a lot of leadership has too much individualism, which it should be a balance of, how you want to advance as an individual, but without stepping on anybody's neck or back to get to your goal. Also, the third one that I felt like I fit was a servant style. So that was a style. This is a style where the leader distributes power amongst the team and facilitates this by trusting the team members. I think that's great. And I thought about previous supervisors or bosses that I've had, and the differences, like some that were like micromanager and like very demanding in comparison to those that, trusted us. They worked on our development and really put us in places. And when you hire somebody, you hire them, right, because you trust them. You feel like they can do the job. And when they're not doing the job, you discuss it and you work on the development to get them to be better. So those are the styles that I definitely would reflect me. And I think it's just important to pour into the leaders that you have under you or alongside you, those that I would have in government, just to know that they're appreciated. It's just not a one-woman show here. We're all working together. It's not a power trip. Yes, I am the president, but, we're all working together. So kind of going back to what I said earlier, I would definitely have experts around me that focus on human development. Again, I feel like we have troubled individuals in places of power and authority that can make laws, that can make requirements and put things in place. And I think that's where we're going wrong. I don't feel like that would be the case if we had people individually working on themselves and whatever that may be. For example, like we have a very racial background. So you have, I believe it's the Supreme Court or the Senate, that whichever the one it is, that they're elected and then they stay there until they die. So you have somebody who's like 80 something making laws, like they're so outdated. Like right now it's 2024, 2020, 2035, 2040, 2050. It'll be a whole new world. So you have to be able to evolve with that. So your laws make sense. What you're saying makes sense. And I feel like we do drop the ball there. So I will have a team of experts that focused on human development, and definitely a cap on how long somebody can be in office. And two, not sorry, it should be an age maximum for anybody to be in certain offices. I don't think a president should be past a certain age. Remember, this is my government, so I'm able to say these things. I don't think someone should be the president after, I want to say maybe 50. I'm being generous. I think 30 and under is way too young. When we're in our 30s, we don't make the best decisions, especially 20s. 20s is like what happened? I feel like 20s is like, what was that? What happened? What did I do? 30s, you kind of like, most people kind of like coming together, figuring it out. You realizing what you did wrong. So you have an idea. You still have a lot to learn, but you are better on the path if you're doing life right. So it definitely needs to be an age cap when anybody can be involved in any of this, for sure. People have their own struggles, so that's why I think the human development piece, if people individually work on themselves, then they will be able to put better laws. We have biases. We have experiences, some good, some bad. So I feel like biases are going to exist. It's the reality is they're not going to go anywhere, but it's just important to make sure that you have your biases in check. For example, like the welfare system. People judge black people for being on welfare, but it's like those rural areas that have like the Caucasian community has like the highest welfare rate, and people don't even really realize that. They always look at black people, baby mothers, are the people that are getting food stamps, and we are not the majority there. But for example, if you go into if you've ever been into a welfare office, you have people that come in there and they're judging you, so they don't give you the quality service. So I think, okay, you may feel how you feel, you may view how you view things, but it's important to be able to check your bias, even in religion. I don't think you should ever deny God. I don't think you should ever, hide the fact that you love God, you serve God. But we do know if you go in certain arenas, prayer is not necessarily acceptable. Like certain jobs, you can't, you'll catch your HR case just for praying. Now, I'm not saying don't go and pray, but it's just the point that people have biases. There's other religions. So I think it's important for people to check the biases. Chanel says, yes, in the U.S., minimum age is 35. But yes, I don't think there's a cap. And that's a good point. Yes, Chanel, there's no cap. You can look at Biden. And I say this respectfully. Biden was hanging on by a thread. And I think personally, the presidency sped him up. He didn't know where he was at half the time. It was just too old, outdated. It just and I have nothing against aging. I hope to age all one day, but that he was just too old. And even like I said, you got the people in the Senate and Supreme Court and all of that. You're too old. I'm done. You said the sip. That was it wasn't on purpose, but okay, that was a little. I guess it was shady. It fit perfect. William says all white or black people that receive welfare should be drug tested. Really? Okay. In my presidency, that wouldn't necessarily matter. But in yours, okay, you can have that, Mr. William Haynes. My presidency, I wouldn't necessarily make that a thing. I would not necessarily get drug tested, but I do think for welfare, I would make a cap how long someone can keep it. But also within that cap, in order to maintain your welfare, I think there are certain things that you should have to do. Like I think if it's not, disability situation, which is something different, I do think that they should be required to do certain things to maintain the welfare. And I think personally that would make them have a higher chance of getting off. I feel like a lot of people just use welfare as that's just how they're going to get by forever. I think welfare should be a stepping stone. It should be a specific amount of time that you're on this to get you to the next level. Yes, some people sell their food stamps. Yeah, I'm gonna leave that alone. But yes, you're right, William. Some people do sell their food stamps for sure. Some people buy food stamps. Who on here be buying food stamps? I'm just kidding. Don't answer that. That wouldn't be necessarily in my presidency. But go ahead, William. When you can have that in yours. It's all good. So let's see. Me, what are you saying? What are you saying? Me, William? Me, what? See what else you guys are saying. Pastor Cabrera, anyone have something to sell now? That ain't food stamps not in the Bible, so it's fair game, right? Let me find out. Jesus would have bought some food stamps to turn the water to wine and make more of that fish and bread. See, Jesus probably would have been like, "Who got the food stamps on deck?" And he would have made it happen. right? So I'm not gonna knock the people. William, you buying them and you talking about people selling them? Come on now, William. Yes, whoever is selling food stamps, let us know. I'm just kidding. So another thing that I would encourage is, open-mindedness, so we could be a people that can coexist, even if we have different views, beliefs, and perspectives. Pastor Cabero, yes, some people who do so buy school supplies and or clothes for their children. That is true. Like, a lot of people get a bad rep for selling their food stamps, but some people do it for good. It's like certain occupations people have. We don't necessarily agree with them, but you have some people, let's say strippers, right? We don't necessarily agree with strippers due to the lustful sexual aspect of it. But you have some people who may do that to pay for school. And I'm not saying that it's okay. I'm not saying it's okay, but it's just, once again, opening our minds to certain things. So like you said, some people may sell their food stamps to do what people may perceive as something positive. The stripper. What about the stripper that needs to take care of her kids? Who would you judge more? A stripper who strips to take care of her children, or a person who goes and robs people to take care of their children? So, like, which one is better or worse? And I'm not giving the answer. I'm just saying, as far as opening our minds and our perspectives. So, Aisha, what I said, I know I be saying stuff and I be like, maybe I shouldn't have said that. So I hope it wasn't nothing too bad. So Chanel says, super side note, you need your own podcast, for real. I would be one of your top listeners. Oh, thank you. Thank you. It's so interesting that you say that, Chanel, because I really don't like talking. I'm not really one to be in front of the public eye and public speaking. I like to chill and be in the background, but maybe you're onto something, Chanel. I don't know. Pastor Kabira says, I remember being on welfare as a single mother in my freshman year of college. I bought Metro cards from some stores owner I knew. Yes, everything is not necessarily for something negative. But once again, it's your perspective, and that's why I always push. Check our biases, check our perspectives. How do we view things? Like I said again, you have a woman who's worse or better, and I'm not giving the answer. It's just something to think about. A person who may dance for money, or somebody who goes and robs people. Like, that's violent. I think a stripper, she's minding her business. She's up there. She didn't tell people to come to the club. She didn't tell your husband to go. He came on his own. She was minding her business. So, they may get, a little side eye in comparison to somebody else. Okay, good. I'm being myself. All right, thank you. Chanel says you got a gifting. Apostle sees something. Yes, she does. Yes, she does. Thank you, Chanel. Thank you, Aisha. So I also looked up something, not looked up, while doing my research, I came across something, and it was the 7 qualities of good leaders. So these are some qualities that I feel that fit, and I'm almost done. 7 qualities of good leaders. So one of them, I think I definitely fit that, and a leader should. So with being self-aware, like I said earlier, you're able to pay attention to your strengths and abilities, but you also should be mindful of where you lack. What are your weaknesses? Number one, so you can grow, but we'll see where you hinder, see where you cause trouble, see where you're the problem. It's easy for us to point out when somebody else has been a problem or somebody else has been the villain, but you have to be able to admit your villainous ways. And not everything is on purpose. Not everything is malicious, but you have to be aware of that. Like, I'm very blunt. I'm very direct. So when I was younger, it was like, oh, that's just the way I am. But as I got older and I evolved, it's like, no, you have to really see what you're saying. And sometimes the truth needs to be spoken, but sometimes you can soften it. If you have somebody that you don't want to hurt and offend, there's a time and place to be blunt and direct. There's a time and place to be soft and nurturing. So I think self-awareness is definitely, I agree, as one of the qualities of a good leader. Number 2, collaborative. Being a leader, it can't always be I and me. Sometimes it has to be a we and us. You have to be able to work well with others. I know in school, one thing I could not stand was group projects. And I don't have the friendliest disposition, but I'm actually quite friendly. And I actually really get along with people. Like, there's not a lot of people in the world that can tell you that we didn't get along. That'd be from childhood to now. But being collaborative, what I didn't like about group efforts, group projects was the pressure of other people not pulling their weight. Like if it's just me, I would just if it's me and I'm only the person that has to deal with the outcome and I want to be lazy, I want to have to do something, that's on me. But if I have other people whose outcome depends on my productivity, then I definitely feel like I have to pull my weight. So that's with group projects coming up, I never was interested because I just feel like you always have somebody who didn't pull their weight. So we have self-aware, we have collaborative. I'm passionate. So I think if I be honest, passionate is where it's something that I'm good at, but also could be better at. I am passionate. So a leader must be passionate. You have to be passionate about your goals. You have to be, in addition to being passionate about your goals, you have to be passionate about the pursuit of the goals. This is an area that I have fallen short. Like obtaining our goals isn't always fun. It isn't always exciting. Sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it's rough. So somebody told me that, I read somewhere, not somebody told me, I read that you have to, not in addition to being passionate about the outcome, you have to be passionate about the grind. So that's definitely important. But I also feel like for me personally, and I'm telling on myself, when I care, I care. But when I don't, I don't. So that could be an area that I definitely would have to work on as a leader, because even if it's something that doesn't necessarily benefit you or you're interested in as a leader, you have to have some level of passion, or at least some level of drive and consistency and grind to get to your goal, even if it's not a goal that necessarily benefits you or you agree with. So something number 4, a leader should be agile, adaptable, and flexible. I think definitely you have to be able to adapt to your situations. Prophetess talks about when she went to that podcast, and you had people there that weren't necessarily Christian, I'm not going to say Christian, but Christian weren't necessarily exhibiting, I guess, what a Christian may look like. I don't think any of us can do that all the time, but I feel like you can be effective if you're able to go into certain areas and adapt. And when I say adapt, adapting is not compromising. Adapting is not settling. You can, yes, read the room. That's great, William. That is great. Reading the room. Yes, you go in, you read the room, and you say, okay, how can I be effective in this area? You can't be effective. You can't go. I know me personally, I'm not crazy about hearing scriptures. I want to hear regular advice, and then I want to hear scripture. I'm at a place now, like when I was younger, I didn't want to hear scripture at all. Now I understand that a scripture is very vital and it's very important. But sometimes I think you need something that's just more realistic in today's times. So me personally, it's like, all right, give me your advice and then tie the Bible, tie the spiritual into it. That's just for me. Now somebody's on the opposite end, may just their faith is really through the roof. And they don't want to hear no worldly advice. They just want to hear what God says. Some people literally are able to just really, my dad is like that. He's very spiritual. He takes it to another level. He goes and prays for a parking spot. If we go to ShopRite, he's like, Lord, lead me to a parking spot. I'm like, sir, you could just go around 3 times and God got other things to do. But he's just really, and it's not he's every part of his life is very spiritual. But if you speak to him, he's just always on this faith high. So, I can't knock that. That's what works for him. You can't go to a concert. It's like a 50 Cent concert thinking you're going to get the same audience if you go to a Juanita Bynum or a Maverick City concert. It's not the same type of people. Now, you may have some people that can fit in both, but overall, you're not going to have the same type of people. So you have to be able to be adaptable. Oh, Janine, you pray for a parking spot. Jesus is busy. Janine and Pastor. I'm talking about my dad. God got a lot going on. Just circle around 3 times. You know what? If you want to make it spiritual, circle around 7 times and you're going to get your parking spot. Oh gosh, Jody, and you praying for a parking spot. Jesus is busy, y'all. I'm just kidding, but we wondering why. No, I'm not going to say that. Never mind. I'm going to leave that alone. But yeah, Jesus is busy, and y'all over here praying for a parking spot. All right, well, that's between you and your God. Who am I to say, right? But yeah, you have to be adaptable. For sure. You have to be amongst sinners to change them. You can't minister to a sinner if you're not by one. Like, let's make it make sense, right? Let's make it make sense. All right, don't jump me off. Y'all want to pray for y'all parking spot? I'm absolutely fine with it. Jesus could do it all at the same time, so he could answer my prayers too. Yes, you're right. Go ahead, make it biblical, Jodian. Y'all so deep today. I love it. Pray for y'all parking spot. Jodian says, he said, make your request known to him. Yes, you better request your parking spot. My aunt Chanel says, my aunt taught me to pray for all things like a parking spot. I feel you though. I'm not knocking it. I'm just bothering y'all. If y'all want to pray for a parking spot, then go right ahead. All right. Go right ahead. So, number 6, empowering and motivating. Somebody who is empowering can be infectious. I had in college a friend of mine named Lysandra. When I tell you, this was the happiest person ever. She was so happy. Sometimes it was annoying. She just was so just gleeful and joyful, just always upbeat. And sometimes we would be like, Lysandra, would you just take it down a notch? But there were times where we needed that. There were times where we weren't doing our best figuring out our life in college. So a leader must be empowering and motivating. Being a leader is a lot of pressure, but you have to understand when you accept, and it doesn't necessarily be just in church. When you accept that you're a leader, it comes with those pressures. It comes with it. So that's why people should be mindful when they take and accept certain callings. And like I said, not necessarily just in church. It could be as a job. When people want the supervisor position, but you got to realize when you're a supervisor, you have the power now to fire people. You have to check people in certain areas. Do you now abuse your authority? Are you too scared to use the authority? You have to be able to realize when you take a leadership role, what comes with that. So you have to be empowering. You have to motivate your staff. I have someone I work with now. She's very passive aggressive. When I don't get it right, it's like she's passive aggressive instead of just pouring in to say, hey, this is how you should have done it right. Now, thankfully, I'm somebody who really is able to pull within from myself and to keep growing and keep getting better. But you have to be able to be motivating to your people when they're not doing the best, when they're not getting it right, when they don't see what you see. You have to still maintain the motivation and the empowering that you have to pour into them. And the last one is said to be innovative. You have to have new ideas as a leader. You have to be able to, like I think William said it, you have to be able to read the room. How can I sell this idea, this goal to these people? And everybody does not look at things the same way. Somebody may need to get a direct approach, like, hey, you need to do this. And that works for some people. Some people like rewards. So it's like, hey, if you do this, maybe you'll get a raise. If you do this, this comes from that. And it doesn't necessarily make people good or bad, but you just have to be able to understand what you're dealing with and how you can get without, and I'm not big on manipulation, even though manipulation does necessarily get a bad rep, but you have to be able to read the room and see how you can get your goal across. So I'll read them all again, the 7 qualities of good leaders. And this is just from an article I got. It could be more, but to be self-aware, to be collaborative, to be passionate, to be agile, adaptable, flexible. Those are together. To be empowering and motivating. And lastly, to be innovative. So coming up with new ideas. So if I was president, these things would take place immediately. I do think maybe before I'm in office, whoever I have an idea to put in place, if we can come together to gain a bit of strategy of how we will be prepared to implement those things. I don't want to just wing it. Once again, I want to have the collaborative effort to see this is what we want to do. Like, what do you guys say about this? What fits? What doesn't fit? What works? What doesn't work? There are a lot of logistical. You may have an idea, but it doesn't necessarily make sense. How many of us have ever had like a great idea, or it's like something as simple as party planning? You like, I just want to have a party, and then you realize the flowers cost this much, the caterer cost this much. These are all of those little parts that you didn't really take into account. So that's why it's important to sit and have it, write it out, make it plain. What is needed from everybody who's participating to get to our end goal. So after I did that, and we have all of that in place, then I would get right to it. I would explain the goals, make sure we have a understanding. This is everybody's task. And then you check in, you see how are we doing with these tasks? What's working? What's not working? What are some things that we now need to adapt? That's how I would do it. So I would definitely get right into it. I feel like with this position, it would align with my relationship with God, because I will feel like, and this is not going to be super deep, but I want the world, my goal would be, if I had the power, to create a more peaceful world. I feel like God brings peace. He brings love. We do have the other side where it's, correction and all of that. That's fine. But I just think when you go out and you just see people's faces, the posture, like people are really going through it. So I would want to foster a country, a government where it's just not so much chaos, not so much negativity, not so much struggle and pain. So, I would like to give people an environment where they can really foster safety. They can be healthy, and that's mind, body, and soul. Because I believe when you have those things, that you're able to really prosper in life. And definitely, telling people about God. God is the way. So He would have to be at the foundation of me getting my agenda out there, just pushing the love and peace that I think God provides when we really fully accept Him. Because even within our struggles, when you allow God to, take the lead role and be the ultimate leader, then things aren't so bad. It's like I say the cheat code. You have the guide, somebody holding your hand through the struggles rather than going through it alone. So the last thing I'll talk about are some laws I would enforce. So I have like a big thing with mistreatment and abuse. So that's across the board, whether it be teachers, workplace, in the street. Like, I think we need to do much more better with how we treat people, how we treat each other. And two, that goes back to human development, because it's how we treat ourselves. A lot of people who mistreat others, they may mistreat themselves in certain ways. It may not look like abuse, but hurt people. So I would definitely want to enforce laws that are related to abuse and mistreatment, because we have to do better. Like, we don't really treat each other well as a whole, and we don't treat ourselves well. So I definitely would do that. Like I said earlier, the laws that I would enforce, that mandatory mental health therapy related stuff. And again, I'm going to be innovative. It's not necessarily, hey, you go to therapy or you're going to jail. More so, how can we implement counseling service when sometimes you don't necessarily realize that that's what it is. It could just be a guidance counselor that they have to go speak to. I think sometimes it just looks punitive, the way we say it, like you have to go to therapy. Like, it doesn't necessarily have to be therapy. It could be a self-care lesson. I know at the new job that I work at, they have a mental health day. It's literally, you got in the summer, you have to take a day. Well, you don't have to, but they highly encourage you to take a day off. Like, I think that's important. That's not necessarily therapy per se, but it can be therapeutic. If you literally I like doing nothing. Some people like being busy all the time. I'm not that person. I like to plan my week to where I get things out of the way so I can have a lazy day. I can have a do nothing day. That works for me. It doesn't necessarily work for everybody else. But when I say mandatory therapy, mental health treatment, again, it doesn't necessarily have to be you go sit and talk to a psychiatrist. It could be a day everybody comes in and paint, National Paint Day. Something fun like that, where everybody just has to paint. Think about it, if you paint, you forget all your worries, you forget all your problems. So things like that. I always thought it was funny. I read that DMX, he likes plants. That's therapeutic. People that like to plant, that could be therapeutic. People sit and talk to the plant. Some people enjoy seeing the plant grow. Some people are very sad when their plant dies, but it's like a test to themselves if they can make something grow. So just imagine if you started with a plant. That's something that is interesting, and you can really realize, like, I cultivated this plant. This plant started as a seed, and just think about how that could be metaphoric. Also, This plant started as a simple seed, and then by you putting your work in, watering it, talking to it, changing the soil, and the other aspects of planting, now you have this big plant. Or some people, they have a tree, they have gardens. Like, this started from a little seed. So therapy has, like you said, Pastor Kabira, therapy has different forms. I enjoy people watching. I could literally sit and just look people. I look at people. I give them a name based on how they look. I give them where they're going. Like, they look like they're going this place based on what they're dressed. And it's not judgmental. It's fun. Life is too serious, and I don't like being serious all the time. Life is too tough. So just days of just doing nothing, peace, whatever therapy may look like. That's what I mean when I say mandatory therapy, and definitely starting young. That's pretty much it. Outside of the age limit, and I'm not an ageist. Is that even the proper term? But the age limit, as far as being too young or too old to hold any leadership position. I think you need to have some level of evolution to be able to stay in those positions. And I think that's where America is definitely getting it wrong. So I thank you guys all today. I hope you were blessed by this. And me being the president, this is just for fun, because I wouldn't do it in real life because it's too much stress, for sure. But I definitely thank you guys all for chatting and participating. It does make it definitely much more fun to do this. It's fun anyway, but the feedback, and making it a collaborative effort. Thank Pastor for having me on again, all the leaders and everybody here this morning. So now we can get into sowing. Before we bring up the announcements, we can get into sow into this word, sow into yourself, and make a sacrificial donation, if you want to call it. You want to just call it tithes and offerings, however you want to call it, but just sow into this. The ways to sow are at the bottom. If you could see the Cash App, that's $SisNabs. You got the PayPal.me/Nabia Kelly, and the Zelle is Nabia Kelly Ministries at Gmail. You can see all of that sowing. I'm scrolling at the bottom. So I hope everybody has a great day. Chanel, thank you so much. You're always there in the background, ready to assist. So everybody just have a good day. And I hope you guys were blessed by this. And I thank you guys for the opportunity again. And everybody have a good day.